Hello, hi. Once again, this is yours truly, Clarice T, and today is the 30th of July, 2024. It's a Monday, beginning of the week, and remaining days for July. So we're about to say hello to August 2024. So advance happy birthdays to the birthday celebrants for the month of August. Anyway, this episode for this podcast in How's Your Day with Clarice, I want to continue um, along the same conversation from my last podcast about weddings and wedding banquets. Who don't like who doesn't like weddings and attending? We have elevated it to another culture, the wedding culture. But I think that it carries, the way we celebrate weddings now. I think even then it had been started way back. And finally, I'm so glad that I can talk about weddings and marriages and not be, not with so much disclaimers about me pining or talking about my own wedding and my own marriage to a fictitious man or something along that line. So, the advantages of being able to speak about it without the intruding distraction, like the chance that I might be speaking about my dream wedding for myself through codes, like using this public platform to address myself, like my private and personal life to be to be talked about, and so that I there to create controversy and engage in so much insinuations to increase the traffic to my platform. Doing so, like, it's very, what do you call that term? um, the clickbaits and this ingenuous way to increase the listeners. Well, finally, I can lay that to rest. As a single person talking about wedding, I have my interest in this wedding is on account of something else. So it's quite safe to say that I am not putting up stumbling block to distract people from the importance of the wedding that I would like to shed light or to focus on. So this is my question at the beginning of this podcast to myself. How many weddings could have the Son of Man, Jesus, attended with or without his mother Mary? Of course, there is that very famous unnamed couple, unnamed bride and groom. But in that wedding banquet, Jesus had performed his first miracle, recorded miracle at least, when he turned water into wine upon the behest of his mother, because I think the guests are still pouring, and they had run out of wine to share the celebration with. So, the Bible recorded that one, when in all likelihood, being part of a close knit community, there could have been others, family, friends, relatives, weddings. More or less, it's the same for each culture. So if he used that illustration as a parable, his listeners, the disciples, would have some reference, and they can picture in their mind what he would be referring to if he painted the picture, the kingdom of God, and he used the wedding banquet as an illustration. So those who had listened to Jesus, his disciples, would have, some questions, if ever, about shared experiences, how they had attended being guests at the same time of get together, being in a crowd, being in a celebration, wedding feasts. Yes, wedding banquet. And then from another perspective, there is another mention about one aspect of wedding, and the physical get-together created by the celebration of marriage, and it had been recorded in Matthew 25:1. So when I had read it, what came to my mind was that indeed the kingdom building will not be forever as a construction site, because Matthew 25 verse 1 started this way: at that time, or in some translation, then or by then, the kingdom of God will be like. So would be like, so that's a very future tense. And that as God had been speaking about this had been the foundation of kingdom building. He had been sharing the vision, the mission, to his disciples. And he had referred to the timeline when he said, at that time, or by then, the kingdom of God will be like. So at some point, some work will be finished. And I read, at that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. So the reference, once again, to the participants or the actors of wedding feasts. So there are, in a wedding, there is a bride, there is a groom, there are guests. And in fact, when he turned the water into wine, they were as guests. They came as guests. So to continue, 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. So at that time, let me start all over again. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps but did not take any oil with them. The wise, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. So what's taking who is taking so long? The arrival, the bridegroom. At midnight, this is verse 6. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out." So I said in the past, I think that's a legitimate need, and the 5 can be generous about it if they have generosity and compassion in their heart. So who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Is it the fault of the five for you know for not filling up their oil lamp? And the bad guys could be the five wise ones who had come prepared. And what did they do to for some of us to judge them? Chapter 9, no, they replied, there may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves. So that's what the advice, and meaningful advice, practical advice. And if a consultant can be asked about the common sense answer to a problem, that's in all likelihood that will be the same response and answer. You can buy, but we will not share. Oh, di ba that's so mean? That's so selfish of them. While they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. So some of the guests were able to make it inside before the door was shut, but the others, well-meaning and kind, it's just that, is it just bad luck that they have that they did not make the cut, that they were short of the oil they used while waiting? So the first part of the waiting part, they were okay. They had oil in their lamp, and they were waiting. So it's for, I guess if it's purely intention, and everything will be evaluated through good intentions, and they would not, those intentions did not materialize into positive actions. they they still couldn't make it. And as we people, we tend to blame the five wise virgins who have managed to enter the room as their oil lamp could still hold on, could still make fire. So then therefore, that's democracy. That is democracy. The popular stand would be if it's going to be somehow a voting or an election on who to be the model citizens, who would be the model people. These five will not make the cut. They would be ostracized. They would be pariah, for they could be condemned for being selfish and thinking of themselves only, right? So it will take, the time that I was reading the Bible, I had to consciously continue in spite of those thoughts, in spite of the thoughts that, oh my gosh, this kind of story is setting a bad example. So until one thoroughly, it becomes a part of life, and that the viewpoint and the perspective and the priorities got changed as we grow old, then that's the enlightenment and the appreciation of what matters most. They become part of our maturity. And so, yes. To continue, verse 10, but while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the others also came. Sir, sir, they said, open the door for us. But he replied, I tell you the truth, I don't know you. Sir, sir. So it's Samban, a man, came out. I tell you the truth, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour. So their waiting was put to a rest when they had to stop hoping and wishing and aspiring to go in, when they had to accept the fact that they will not be allowed to enter because the door was shut. The door was going to be shut. Probably that's an act of mercy, you know. There's no use hoping. There's no more hope left like what we have for each other now at this point in time. Whenever a person encounters bad news and that one is downfallen, we always inject hope in the things that we say to each other, because that is the time. This is the time to say that hope floats, don't give up. Continue to hold on to the hope that we have on the promises of the Lord, because the time will come when either you have it or you don't, and there is no more reason to hold on to hope. And basically that is when the kingdom of heaven ceases to be a construction site, that it's not going to be built, but it's already built. And the hope that we have now, that we're holding on, is physically in physical form. Not in physical form, I don't know that for sure, but we can speak about it as if we're in the same place as that source of hope. So it's either we have it or we don't. By the way, in passing, I got to be asked in a roundabout way, why haven't I talked about, or why don't I content the local events, the local goings on in this part of the world? Am I not part of a local community? Why do I content mostly things that are, you know, somehow the past and the future, and that the whenever I speak about the present, it would be like a transition point between the past and the future. So I would like to address that question. Like, as for the record, I want to name the local government officials where I am a subject, or where I am a citizen who is expected to conform with the local regulations, just to put proper perspective about it, because my answer to this question doesn't mean that I am ignorant and I am not in touch with the realities on the ground, the physical location, and in this part of the world. Indeed, Lucena City is a first-class city. It's a provincial city, and we are on the southern part of Manila, the Luzon Island. And the Philippines is composed of three big islands, and the foremost island, in terms of its size, it's Luzon. And here in Luzon City, our mayor is, let me get it straight, the full name. By the way, there will be an election next year, the 2025 election. But for now, the mayor is actually the mayor and the vice mayor are father and son, because the son is Mayor Mark Alcala. He is the son, and the three-termer mayor, Mayor Roderick Alcala, uh, is now serving as the vice mayor. So until that changes, our mayor and our vice mayor are father and son, and they are elected position. And the governor is Governor Helen Tan. She is a medical doctor, and Quezon has four legislative districts where we have representative to the House of Congress. And the first, Lucena City is in the second district. So the first district, the elected official is Congressman Mark Enverga. And for the second district, it's Congressman J.J. Suarez. The third district is Congressman Reynan Arrogancia, and the fourth district congressman is Congressman Attorney Mike Tan of the fourth district. So I am in touch very much, especially with work of JM and Lee, my daughters, as they chat about their work. It's about the current events, which they are privy on account of my brother, who is a provincial board member at the moment. But but my relevance doesn't come from people's votes. But it's not for lack of consideration. I had attempted in the past, but the good Lord had vetoed my attempt at that. So for any what would be my claim for significance locally? Will it be the same as my claim to significance on on a wider scope, like nationally and globally? So these would since this would come from a very non-traditional and non-conventional way, the usual process of how a person will have, you know, will can be found on the conversation and on the even a footnote in any piece of history. I have already conceded that the corrections that I am doing right now would serve purpose in making sure that if I do not, achieve something in this life, and that all would be noticed and recognized posthumously, not in this life. I am still heartened and I am still very much encouraged to continue on, because I truly believe that there is more to life than this lifetime. And so if it is not going to be, if none of my work will ever be acknowledged and recognized to my face at this point in time, then that too is part of God's will. So when I had considered that an election, probably if I would hold a government position, I thought that that would really get me out of, the limbo, the confusing status and citizenship. But after some time, I realized I am where I am where I can best serve the Lord. And it is not to the majority of people to whom I must derive my income. And that has become very clear since the beginning. And for each problem solving and for each you know compromising place and danger zones, the manner with which I am able to get past it is really it's not traditional, and it's not because I got voted or there I have become suddenly so popular. So any relevance that I may have now is on account of the inner workings that have bypassed the usual, and the legitimacy of it will not come until the realities on the ground also change. Like, for instance, in future time, this what is commonly referred to as Bible study will also be deemed as obsolete. For now, being the object of ridicule on account of our belief that are beyond eyesight, beyond the listening ears, beyond the ears, beyond our physical ears, beyond the material or physical touch. So, of course, we can be the laughing stock for those who believe that the best of this life is the best that they can ever hope for. So we are the joke of the town. Hello, Parisian Olympics. And it's to be expected until the reckoning. So that is who I am. I can talk about current events in my physical location, and I will strive to do so neutrally. My uniqueness comes from the fact that none can talk about me openly and evenly as of the current date. So, who else has the nearest similar existence as I am in the current times? So, who would you compare me to? Locally and elsewhere. Like, I can talk about prominent personalities, but they cannot talk about me, even if it's in the same vein as touting the exact name, being folksy. Oh, I know that person, like who got helped by a government aid program, or I know that cigarette vendor. I know who is that janitor or that single parent who had benefited from the government program. So who has the open microphone or live telecast and they can talk about people they can name, coming from the grassroots, like about my coordinator, naming them in their full name or in their aliases, just to greet. Especially, this is especially true during the campaign. So I do not wish to take away from the need to present your best foot forward, your best self, because people will make a choice, and that's the dynamics and the mechanics that my relevance does not come from that dynamics and mechanics where people will talk about you and they would vote for you, they would elect you as a relevant person, a significant person to whom they must listen to. So that is not the way my name had been plucked out of anonymity. The only time that will happen to me is when the reality that we have now gives way to the events wherein people will say, So that is what this podcaster was talking about, or the person who must not be named can be named already, because the realities on the ground have changed. So this is what was being talked about by the woman from Lucena City who could not be talked about openly. So this woman, yours truly, who comes from Lucena City, I have started as case study. But at this point in time, though I started as a case study, I represent a paradigm shift. My singularity and my uniqueness sticking up like a sore thumb to some, to the, you know, to the conventional. I could not have reached this far, this time period, though I never served a term in office. I had never, you know, participated directly as a candidate to an election. So that's why I never served a term in office. If I am meant to be a mere blip in the system that goes on and on and on, I would have met the logical end in the circumstance that I have at this point in time. But if I represent the future that is to come, so along with my day to day living would come the things that will change the status quo. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and until next time. Oh, by the way, I want to promote this single that's part of my album, Tagalog Classics. It's entitled Bato sa Buhangin. It's the pebbles in the sand. So it describes the relationship between a couple, and when they found themselves different, can they still stay together, something like that. So I hope that you know I just thought that it's very fitting with the theme that I had talked about in the past about relationships, especially the relationship of a couple. A single person can talk about it, and it can be talked about, clinically dissecting it. And because I can speak with objectivity, if not the person, the having not having the kind of emotion that will change like a roller coaster ride. Because that's how I can describe how is it to be in that kind of relationship. So really, please support my album Tagalog Classics, and I think I am going to finally meet those who early on had supported my music, because I will be privy to that information finally. So please, the song that I want to promote now, that I want to launch, is Bato sa Buhangin. Thanks.